Welcome back everyone to another episode of the Silksong as Pokemon series. It's hard to believe that we're currently on episode 13 and that we already made over 90 designs, many of them suggested by you guys. So be sure to leave a comment with your ideas as there are many more episodes to come and yours could be next. Today we have quite the special episode as we're finally getting the well-awaited Shakra Pokemon, as well as some early route Pokemon you can find at the very start of your journey. But let's start with Shakra, as I know that's what you want to see the most. So I wasn't too sure what to do with this Pokemon. Sometimes the hardest part in turning these characters into Pokemon is deciding what animal they should be based on. Shakra's most defining trait are her rings, which she uses as a weapon by throwing them. So I wanted to find an animal that had some kind of relationship with rings, and in the end I decided to go with a ring-tailed lemur. So the idea is that this Pokemon has a long tail that creates these psychic energy rings, and uses them as a throwing weapon. Meet Mentil, a fighting and psychic type Pokemon. This Pokemon is very agile, generates psychic energy rings from its tail that it then uses as a throwing weapon or to protect itself. It can't generate many of them at once, so it needs to be careful when it comes to managing its resources. Luckily, these rings are very bouncy, so they come back after throwing them. As for its abilities, I went with Inner Focus, as I feel like it fits a warrior like this one, and Technician, which would go well with signature move, Chakra Ring. Psychic type, a multi-strike move similar to Icicle Spear or Arm Thrust, which I think it should also learn. Chakra Ring also has a 10% chance to confuse the opponent with each hit. And for its hidden ability, I went with Magic Bounce, as the rings it creates bounce around and it's Psychic type. I imagine it having an ability where it creates a magic barrier around it to bounce off these effects. Next, we have its evolution. This one of course will look much more like Shakra, and instead of being this cute chubby Pokemon, it has a much more slender figure. I wanted to give it this fighting pose, similar to that of a Shaolin monk. I imagine this Pokemon being very intelligent, constantly meditating to be able to access its rings, which is also fitting considering how monks are often depicted training under a waterfall, place where you eventually find Shakra's master, and where I also imagine you will get an egg of this Pokemon. Meet Chakring, the ring-tailed Pokemon. It uses the rings around its tail to slam the floor or walls around it to quickly bounce off and move super fast, constantly appearing behind and attacking from every angle thanks to the Chakra rings that it throws. Stat-wise, it's a really fast Pokemon, Shakra moves really fast, and it also has a good attack and decent special attack. And that is all for the Shakra Fakemon, but I'm not done with Shakra as a whole. I also designed her as a trainer. This Pokemon we just created being her ace, of course. Shakra, just like Lace, would be your rival in this region, but instead of being rude like Lace, Shakra is much kinder and really respects your strength. You would often fight her at some points of your journey, and even help you in some fights, just how she does in the original game. As for her design, I was inspired by the outfits you wear in the Sword and Shield DLC, as she is mentioned to be from a warrior tribe. I figured she could be from a faraway dojo and has come to Farloom to test her skills. I decided to give her this Gyaru-like or delinquent-like look because of how she often sits, squatting on the floor. It gives her this anime delinquent vibe, so I like the idea of her having a strong personality. But when you get to know her, you can see that she's actually a very caring person. So, her clothes consist in a kimono, like the one a karate fighter would have used, but her sleeves rolled up to enhance this delinquent-like look. She also has her hair dyed slightly, but her roots are showing as she doesn't have time to dye it while travelling. And her hair has two braids to resemble Shakra's antennas, which also fits because she comes from a dojo, and braids are very common if you're a fighter and have long hair, so that it doesn't get in the way. And lastly, she has a few strands of loose hair to kind of resemble Shakra's head shape. Meet Shakra, your rival in the Farloom region. Just like with previous trainer designs, I've assigned a team to her. For starters, she has her ace, Mentil, which will later evolve into Chakring. I also decided to give her a nose pass, as she is the map maker who sells you the maps and the compass too. So a compass Pokemon like this one makes a lot of sense. Then this viewer suggested Como due to their resemblance and how it uses its yellow scales to make noise. They also mentioned a quill Pokemon based on the gold penny, which we have no idea what it is, but it does sound like Gulpin, and funny enough, Gulpin has something that looks like a feather on its head, so maybe it uses that as a quill. So we can give it a Gulpin that would eventually evolve into Swallow, And finally, a new evolution based on the duck suckers. But I'll leave that for a different video. And they also mentioned giving her a Garganical because she ends her quest at the salty lake. I think that makes sense. We will still need one more Pokemon for our final team. So if you have any ideas, just let me know. For the rest of the video, thought that we could start filling the Pokédex with some early route Pokemon, as I'm basically finished with that part of the fan game, so I thought that it was quite needed. For starters, this viewer suggested a regional Scatterbug that looks like the Pilgrims and eventually evolves into the Silkflies, which are supposedly the soul or Pilgrims who never reached the Citadel. So at the first stage, Scatterbug resembles the Pilgrim Groveler, as it crawls on the floor just like a caterpillar. Meet Philumian Scatterbug, the Pilgrim Pokemon. From the moment that it's born, it feels a certain attraction towards the Citadel, using all of its energy to reach it, as it is its life purpose. For its evolution, Spilpa, I was originally inspired by the Wary Pilgrim, which really looks like it. It's round and covered by a cloth. But then, I decided to give it an extra detail that really feels like itself to design. The small square-shaped scales that fly away from it, decided to make them blue so they look like the magnetite dice, which you can get from Lumble the Lucky, a pilgrim NPC who you find in Blasted Steppes and plays a betting game with dice with you. Meet Philumian Spilpa. Its journey towards the Citadel is rough, but thanks to its fur that covers its whole body, it can withstand the harsh environments of the region. However, this doesn't guarantee its survival, as it's still a very weak Pokemon. And next we have a Vivillon based on the Silkflies. As I mentioned earlier, these butterflies are actually the souls or pilgrims who perished on their way to the Citadel. So this regional form is actually a bug and ghost type instead of a bug and flying type. I made its antennas fall down a little to give it this gloomy look as it failed its mission, and tried to give it a bit of a glow in its design. Meet Philumian Vivillon. It wasn't able to reach the Citadel in time, so it ended up perishing. However, its soul kept going in order to help other Scatterbugs and Spilpa reach their destination. As for its abilities, I just gave it the same ones as a regular Vivillon, which, funny enough, it gets Friend Guard. Quite fitting for a Pokemon who helps other pilgrims reach their destination. And for its stats, I also gave it regular Vivillon stats. The only thing that will really change is its type and some moves that it learns. And you would probably think that this is all for Vivillon, but what if it actually reached its destination? Well, this idea came from Isaac, a design original unknown in a previous episode, shaped like the symbol of the Citadel. I asked viewers what could this Pokemon's purpose be in the region. We already have 28 forms for unknown, so just having a new form for no reason would feel boring. So Isaac suggested for it to be a cataclysm that causes certain Pokemon to evolve. In this case, if you have a Philumian unknown in your team and level Spilpa up, it would evolve into this more powerful form of Vivillon. And these wouldn't be the only ones. I would like to add more Pokemon that evolve through this method. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comment section. So I based this Vivillon on the Choir Elder. As you probably know, most of the Citadel enemies are actually former pilgrims who reached the Citadel. I imagine members of Team Silk using these kinds of Pokemon. Meet Philumian Vivillon. Now a bug and fairy type. Many think that Spilpa and Scatterbug are trying to reach the Citadel. However, their true intention is to reach the ruins in the Blasted Steppes, as that is where Philumian Unknown is found. By finding this Pokemon, they can evolve into their ultimate form, much more powerful than its wispy form. This Vivillon has a powerful horn that slams against its enemy. Just like the other Vivillon, it still has the same abilities. However, stat-wise, it's much more powerful than regular Vivillon, or its wispy form. Instead of a base total of 411, it now has a total of 500, which isn't too crazy, but should be usable now. So I decided to make it a physical attacker as it now attacks with its horn. I hope you're enjoying the video so far, but before I show you the next design, I would like to let you know that you can become a member to help support the channel. The highest tier of membership allows you to download a set of designs done in this channel. So if this is of your interest, be sure to check it out. If not, you can always just subscribe to help me out. Anyway, back to the video. Next we have the early route normal type of the region, also known as the HM Slave. I decided to use the Mauling as inspiration for this one, as you literally find it at the very start of the game. The Mauling is an enemy that you find on platforms and turn into a ball that rolls around it, slamming into you if you try to get on. so I decided to base it on an armadillo, as they also curl up like a ball. As a secondary theme, I decided to make it look like a test dummy used on car crashes, as it's constantly crashing against you, and it even has a bumpy look like that of an airbag. Meet Religion, a normal type Pokemon. He likes to roll off cliffs, which doesn't harm it in any way, as it has a protective shell that covers it. However, this can be a little inconvenient for hikers, as it might knock them over. For its abilities, I went with Sturdy and Battle Armor, as it's based on a test dummy, so it's supposed to be durable and be able to take hits. And for its hidden ability, I went with Reckless, as it's a Pokemon that jumps off cliffs for fun, so I think it fits well. Next, we have its evolution based on the Maramore, which is basically an adult version of the Morley. I made it a little bigger and more aggressive looking, but I didn't want to go too overboard with its design, as it isn't supposed to be very powerful. Just like with its previous stage, I added these markings on its head, which you can find on test dummies. Meet Armadillo, the rolling Pokemon. Just like its pre-evolution, it likes to roll off cliffs. However, unlike Religion's timid personality, Armadillo is much more aggressive and territorial, and will actually seek out hikers or other Pokemon who get near to knock them off. Stat-wise, as it's an early route Pokemon, stats aren't too high, but I basically made it a defensive Pokemon with decent attack. Before I show you the last design of the day, there's one more thing I would like to announce. We finally reached 15,000 subscribers, so I wanted to celebrate in two ways. First, I made a post where you can download this phone screen to thank you all for subscribing. And lastly, I created a Discord channel for those of you who are interested in art and want to share your artwork, help with some sprites for the potential fan game, or just want to chat in general about Pokemon. Anyway, let's see the final design of the day. I needed a Pokemon for the first gym leader of the region, the Moss Druid. She will already have Sylvantra, her ace, who's based on the Moss Mother, but I needed one more Pokemon, and that Pokemon is a regional Shuckle based on the overgrown Pilgrim. You find this enemy right outside the Moss Druid's cave, and it fits her mossy theme, so I think it's a great enemy to add to her team. For the reason why I decided to go with Shuckle, it's because I think it looks fairly similar in their shape. But also, the Moss Druid makes potions, and guess what? So does Shuckle. It adds berries inside its shell and makes juice out of them, which can then be consumed to recover HP. Meet Philumian Shuckle, a rock and grass type Pokemon. Due to the constant spores that Sylvantra throws at the Mosslands, as well as Shuckle's low speed, moss started growing on top of it and inside of it, slightly cracking its shell. Luckily, this hasn't affected its defensive capabilities. Just like regular Shuckle, it can make juice out of berries. But now, thanks to the moss on its back, it can also regrow them for an infinite supply. For its abilities, I decided to go with Sturdy, just like regular Shuckle. And instead of Gluttony, I went with Harvest, so you can give it a berry and keep using it again and again thanks to its incredible defenses. As for its hidden ability, I went with Contrary. I feel like this Shuckle would probably be better than its regular form, as the Harvest ability as well as Leech Seed will make it very hard to defeat. And that is all of the designs for today. I hope you enjoyed them all, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. As a last note, I would like to thank my members Pokedex Fillers, Dre Tats, Sensaki Farrell, Stanley Pop Gaming, Lisa Alderson, Fire9596 and Antonio Rota. Thank you all for sticking to the end, and remember to subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.